I'm Chris Locks, and my team is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm here to talk about sporting goods and licensed products. A brief history: a sporting good is defined as the physical objects necessary for the game form. Licensed products are defined as items of clothing or products bearing the name or logo of a popular collegiate or professional sports team. There's three product categories for licensed products: equipment, athletic footwear, and apparel. And teams will earn royalties, which is a certain percentage of sales for anything that has their logo on it. George Tryon was the first man to start sport industry. He actually started with a fishing and tackle business in the 1840s, and it eventually expanded into billiard equipment. He merged with his two largest competitors and created a $1.5 million operation, which ended up being larger than all of its competitors combined. An entrepreneur was described by French philosopher J.B. Say as those who created better ideas for better uses of existing technology. Albert G. Spalding was an early sporting goods entrepreneur. You probably recognize him from basketballs or other sporting good equipment. And he was a professional baseball player, and he actually took out an $800 loan initially to start his company. And he made many technological advances in safety and performance for equipment. He became the official supplier of baseballs for baseball's National League, and the emergence of companies such as Nike, Adidas, Reebok, Puma. This ended up leading to a huge rush in sporting products and apparel. Um, Fans will generally purchase goods to draw them closer to their favorite sports organizations or athletes. They asked a lot of people why they bought sporting goods, and they said they wanted to dress like players on the field. UCLA was credited with being the first school to enter into an agreement with a licensing manufacturer when their school bookstore granted a license to a watchmaker in 1973. Um, Sales are a big part of licensed product, and it actually totaled $100 million in the early 1980s, but by 2005 it had reached $2.7 billion. The peak, though, for licensed sales for major college and pro licensed products was in 1996 when it had reached $13.8 billion. Ethics is also a big issue. Many companies have realized that it's much cheaper to turn to a foreign company to make their clothing. This is called global sourcing. And recently, a lot of companies have come under fire for low wages, unfair pay, and unsafe working conditions. Nike has been a big critic of that. Um, Management is also a big part of sports industry, and constant improvement means that there is a very high level of competition in the sport industry. Flexibility, innovation, and sustainable growth. These are all essential qualities a company must have if they want to survive in the sport industry. Um, what's the most critical factor, though, is innovation. There's a constant need to create the latest and greatest, the newest products and services for consumers. So it's tough to stay on top. You always have to be coming up with something new. There's a certain system of business that they use to run this. Um, they use properties division, and they administer these to licensing programs and professional sport leagues, and they approve licenses, police trademark infringement, and distribute licensing revenues among league franchises. And they also handle marketing and sponsorship deals. The NFL was the first to implement this, and the MLB followed. Um, the SGMA is the Sporting Good Manufacturing Association. This is the trade association for manufacturers, producers, and distributors of sporting goods and apparel. It employs more than 375,000 people, and it generates $60 billion in domestic revenue and $15 billion in international revenue. Some challenging issues with this recently. EA Sports and NCAA football has been a big issue. In 2010, EA Sports, their NCAA football game had become the second best-selling video game in North America. So many former student athletes filed lawsuits against EA Sports and the NCAA for using athletes' names. And the NCAA decided to no longer participate in the game due to concern that it could lead to further legal action. There is a possible solution. The NCAA has discussed using generic players for the games with no names, no numbers, or NCAA logos, but I'm not sure how well that would go over for a college video game. So, um, there's not very many career implications that apply directly to me. I'm not a sports management major, but one big implication that I could think of was in the part where it discusses management in the reading, um, it mentions that innovation and flexibility are the biggest things you can have, and the world is constantly changing, and if you want to be successful in a fast-paced world that we live in, you have to be able to adapt and come up with an innovative way to be successful. Me personally, I want to be a litigations attorney, and you're constantly being given new information on a case, and it's important to be able to quickly adapt to the new information and come up with an innovative strategy to win your case. So that's how I thought it was relevant to me. And thank you for watching my slideshow.